Do you remember when dating apps actually worked and their main prerogative or objective wasn't to keep you on the app and spend money and just waste your time? I know it's been a long time, but I wanted to travel back in time because these days were a good one, and because of the times we're in now, maybe we didn't appreciate them enough. I think it's worth just looking back at a time when things were simple with these apps. It was really straightforward. What they said they were, if they were trying to get you hookups, if they were trying to get you relationships, if they were trying to do something different. They were real if they were trying to be the app that wanted to be deleted. They were real in that approach initially. And I want to look back at those initial times because we know how they look now. Not bright. Dating apps go back a while. Like, obviously, maybe not apps themselves, but different variations of dating online has been different from Match.com to eHarmony. All of these things were used in the 2000s, early 2010s, something like that. And there was commercials for them as well. But back then, it was, I want to say, taboo or weird to be looking for relationships online. There's a clip, or not a clip, there's a episode of Friends where Ross finds he finds a woman online. I think it was, I don't know what game it was, but he found somebody online. And the way he talked about it to his friends, everybody thought it was weird. Like, oh, like that's weird. And he was trying to explain, like, no, it's normal. I mean, people do it and all that stuff, and they just didn't get it. These were the '90s, so all of these times, that's just an example of how it was always looked weird. It was looked upon in a weird way, to use the internet to find a partner. Um, and that continued all the way through, like I said, obviously the '90s, 2000s, and early 2010s as well. A little bit. It was just kind of weird to do that. But then, still during that time, it started to make a shift when dating apps started to become more prevalent. And that was Tinder, that was Bumble, and then just apps in general that were social apps. Taking away like social media apps of like, Twitter, Instagram, and all those. I mean, apps that were, there was no following attached to it. There was no trying to grow or anything. These were just apps that were social. There was a lot of these apps like, in the 2000, in that time I was in college, and there was a lot of these apps from Yik Yak to, there was another one, I forget what it was called, but it was blue, when you like could post anonymously, like pictures specifically. um, and then like Snapchat, as well. Like all of these apps and stuff were social in that aspect, but the main point of them wasn't to grow or do anything like that. It was mainly to just interact. It was like AIM, except on your phone. Like all of these things were, you just wanted friends, you just wanted to hang out with people, you just did those things. And these, there was kind of a market for dating, and that's when these apps like Tinder and Bumble filled those markets. In these early 2010s, it felt like used these apps were, I don't know, like tested on the younger generation at the time, which were, millennials. So, in my college, a lot of people had used it. A lot of people were using Tinder, a lot of people were using Bumble, but not to its intended, use. In a way, Tinder was obviously the hookup thing, but a lot of people used it just to meet people on campus and just to invite them to different places, to parties, and all of these things. Like these apps and such were used in a way that was almost like, gathering friends, or making friends, or meeting more people to bring to your party. Like I know people would create a profile to put out like a blast of like, hey, got a party at this house, hit this house, come to this house, whatever. Like I feel like Tinder was used for that a ton. Like it was just, it was obviously for hookups. People were using it for hookups, real easy stuff, like, and all that. But it had multiple uses in these early days where like there was no kind of, it was the Wild West, and there was no kind of, I don't know, barriers, not barriers, but like there was no indication of where this was trying to go really, because it was so early. Bumble was a little bit more subdued in a way where, like, you were really mainly were just looking for, a relationship and things like that. The women were um, first, with their replies and stuff. So, that changed the dynamic of a little bit and made it more relationship centric in a way. That doesn't mean there were, good people on there. I'm just saying that's just kind of what it was centered towards from, how it started. So in those early times, that's kind of how people were using it. I don't know if I doubt the Bumble thing had the friends thing at the time because I think that came significantly later, but people were using Bumble the same way, kind of as, a friendship type of thing to find people, find friends, but then also obviously long-term relationships as well. Tinder was I can find friends, but this is also the hookup side. Bumble was the relationship side, but you can also find friends as well. So they had their own different uses, and people used both of them. They both were popular. Obviously, Tinder was the main one. Like Tinder, you saw everywhere. Tinder was the one that blew up on all other places. And when people talked about dating apps and social media apps, they were talking about Tinder. They weren't talking about kind of any other apps. They were mainly talking about Tinder because for the most part at that time, Tinder was the only thing that people knew. They didn't know about the other ones that were kind of laying in the wings and were there as well. Just not they just Tinder was the beast and the main popular one. Now we're kind of getting into the mid 2010s and the later 2010s, where Tinder is kind of mainstream at this point. Everybody knows about Tinder. Bumble's also pretty mainstream at this point. We haven't gotten to a part where they were soul suckers and just looking for money. We're still not there yet, so that's good. This was kind of the late 2010s specifically was kind of the golden age of these, apps. These dating apps is kind of this during this time is kind of when things really took off. Tinder being as the giant as it was, but Bumble also growing as well, and then Hinge coming along, as its little kind of younger brother that was there as well. But slowly but surely, Hinge was kind of growing a niche and then growing larger and larger as we were kind of moving on. And during these times, 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic type stuff, you would see these ads and commercials and stuff about, where the app meant to be deleted. So that's kind of how they were. This is how they were separating themselves from the others. This is how they were separating themselves from Tinder and how they were separating themselves from Bumble. Allowing people to meet whoever they wanted to meet at any point, not a specific algorithm that directed you to people you wouldn't like. At this time, it was very straight up, straightforward. Of you just found people in your area that were around you at the time, whatever your kind of thing were, and all the different things that you kind of had for interest. Yeah, this was the golden era. This was the golden time where these apps were working. People actually had good things to say about these apps and how they were kind of being put together, how they were being used. Because at this point, the whole conversation had changed of, just meeting people at the club or meeting relationships or potential partners at the bars or their clubs or whatever. It started to shift in a way of like, okay, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I'm not the type of person that wants to do that. I like, third places and stuff like these and events to meet these people at. But like, there'd be a great way if there was just an easier way to meet people that were actually genuinely looking for a relationship. And this is what Hinge was falling into in that, situation, because Hinge was the app that was seen as the true relationship app or true app that was like, you can put what you're looking for on there and essentially find what you're looking for. And Hinge was kind of becoming the all-in-one in a way. Like Tinder at this point was kind of like the ratty, nasty friend that has gone way too far over the deep end, of the kind of vile stuff that are around people and alike. And Bumble was the one that just wasn't really doing it for anybody. That wasn't really working. It was there. just wasn't working. And this is when Hinge kind of took off. Just specifically, like, I really think between 2018 and 2019, and 2020 before the pandemic, this was like its heyday when, people were saying, like, yeah, no, this is a good app. We're in the time of looking for relationships. We're in the time of we want to be with people. We want to actually be together. We actually want meaningful, long life, significant partners and relationships. And this app was kind of delivering in those aspects. As a society, we became more and more online and more social with our online use. So finding people that are like you that you would not have met or bumped into was something that people, wanted and were kind of yearning for. It was the day of yearning. It was the day of yearn. So that's kind of what really catapulted Hinge into kind of the stratosphere of, like, yeah, this is the app, this is the next app, and it's above all the rest. It's pretty much everything combined and can really be the best app out there. And that's kind of what it was. It became that app. It became kind of a positive vibes type of thing. And it was a situation where, you didn't have to, there was no paywalls. There was no, struggling to find people. There was matches that were found. There was people liking other people. There was conversations happening. There was dates happening. There was people going out and doing things. Um, and this whole, like, shift that we have now of, like, hating first dates, hating online dating, hating dating apps wasn't a thing. Because everything was so new and everybody was actually finding people and finding relationships and going out on dates. Dates used to be fun. I don't know what it is now, but it feels like dates back then were just fun. And maybe because you were meeting people that you could never meet, and it's not as and now it feels like a commodity, or like um, just not as appreciated, I guess. And I think also the big thing for this is options. I think there's too many options for everybody. Back then, it didn't feel like that. It felt like, it felt like it felt simple but meaningful and full in a way. Like you were getting true, actual people, and there was no need to continue to use the app to find more people. You found the person or whatever, and you went on dates with these people and all this stuff. And I don't know, it just felt like meaningful people were being pushed, and not in an aggressive way where it's like a lottery where you're just trying to swipe or whatever. It wasn't like that. I don't know. It was just different, worthy of the use, and in a better way. Actually looking out for people that were looking for something genuine. Anyways, yeah, it was a really nice time. Yeah, we're back into the present now, but yeah. So let me know what you think. Were you using those apps at the time? Did you know of those apps? Have you only known them what they are now? Love to hear all your opinions and thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, follow me here, and I will see you in the next video on Monday.